Atypical security guard. I am actually heading to OPSEC Media Group headquarters. I will be recording a podcast. I do this podcast and it's called Shots Fired, The Whole Story. Okay? It's called Shots Fired, The Whole Story. And if you're looking for it, you would have to type that into the entirety of the search bar. And it's law enforcement officers who have either been shot in the line of duty or who have had to shoot someone in the line of duty. And the people that I work with, they listen to these officers' story. They recount what led up to the story. It's a really interesting, endeavor, and it gives me an opportunity to sit in and kind of like peek behind the curtain of some situations that very often are extremely, I hate to say divisive, they can be extremely divisive depending on the situation that led up to it or that preceded it. But my point is that not being in law enforcement, not being a part of that community directly, it's really amazing to sit in and to hear people recount, these situations. And it's also very, very interesting to see the effects. There are long-lasting effects on police officers, 15, 20 years after they've been involved in a shooting. And I think that the societal outlook is that, police officers shoot with impunity and that they don't have any sort of heart or feeling about the situation. And I can tell you from the entirety of the situations that I've seen and been a part of in terms of the conversation, that's simply not true. It weighs very heavily on these officers on both sides of the barrel. So just a little...
In 1 mile, turn right.
All right. Hang on a second. Sorry about that. You might hear my thing in the background there. So anyway, just a little bit of a preface of what I'm about to do. So I was doing a live stream last night and we were talking about a security guard that had gotten shot in Mississippi, outside of Jackson, Mississippi. I used to live in that area. So we were talking about that, how to protect yourself as a security guard. And someone in the comments had asked a question. It wasn't a Q&A, but I'm always down to answer questions from people. This person said, how do you handle negative coworkers at your job? And, there's a lot of times where I come on, I give advice, I give my thoughts on things, and I'm somewhat experienced to talk about that. Dealing with negativity at work, I am extremely experienced. So I can definitely give you my advice and give you my thoughts on it. Here's the thing, right off the bat, and this was probably one of the things that took me the longest to learn in life. Everybody is not going to like you.
Red light and speed limit, camera ahead.
Sorry, I knew that was coming. Everybody in life is not going to like you. Everybody at work is not going to like you, right? And that's okay. You have to get to a point where you're completely okay with the fact that everybody doesn't like you. When I would work in situations or organizations...
Red light, camera ahead.
Now you guys see how many red light cameras we have in Portland. Like this is a side note, okay? So stand by. This is one of the...
Go past this light. Then at the next one, turn right.
This is one of the poorest neighborhoods in all of Portland. This is a side note, okay? I'm going to do a little rant here. This is one of the poorest neighborhoods in all of Portland. It's where people have, the least amount of money, the people that have the least access to resources. And this is where they have 4 speed trap cameras. 4 speed trap cameras. Now, you could say that people that make less money or have less money, might tend to commit more crime or tend to do more nefarious things. But I just find it highly ironic that they don't have any of these speed cameras on the west side, where all of the people who live in multi-million-dollar houses, and I see them speeding up and down the street all the time. Just had to get that off my chest. Sorry. All right, now back to what I was talking about. So whenever you're working, wherever you're working, you're not going to get along with people. Everybody's not going to like you, and that has to be okay. At the end of the day, you don't have to be friends with everyone. When I would work in organizations and when I would work for companies or work in environments, even all the way back to the military, that used to bother me. I am a people pleaser. I am a very sociable, good-hearted, well-intentioned person at heart. And a lot of times that rubs people the wrong way. I'm also extremely opinionated. You know, back in the 90s, back in the late 80s and the early 90s, the mid 90s, we didn't have YouTube. There was no outlet for someone like me to get on and share my opinions and share my thoughts and talk about things. So you share your opinions and you share your thoughts with the people that are around you. Everybody doesn't get down like that. Most people don't want to hear that shit, right? Most people don't want to hear that shit. And most people don't want to be told that they're doing something wrong, can do something better, that there's a better way to do it. So all of that used to rub people the wrong way. If I worked in a place where, you know, people had problems with me, if I ever heard of someone gossiping with me, and if there was ever a tinge or a hint of racism, I was coming for some skin. If I ever felt that people were being bigoted or prejudiced or racist towards me, I wasn't going to stand for it. I went all the way. I'm going to share with you guys a little something that I don't tell people all the time. When I was working for a county prison in Pennsylvania, I was the second black officer to ever be hired. Okay? The irony that I'm about to tell this story. I have an expandable baton right here because I'm using it for something down at downtown with OPSEC Media Group today. And it just so happens that I'm about to tell this story. I was the second person hired at this prison, this county jail, ever. This thing had been there since like the late 1800s, okay? And when I say second, the first guy had been hired 3 months before me. So going through training, we're going through defensive tactics training, and the sergeant that's teaching the training pulls out a baton very similar to this, right? And nonchalantly, completely as if this is in the book, he says, "This is an expandable baton, better known as a nigger be cool stick." And I'm like, am I tripping? I said, "Excuse me, what do we call that?" "Oh, sorry, this is called the nigger be cool stick. Because whenever we break this out, all the niggers on the block know it's time to cool the fuck out." Oh, okay, this is gonna be one of those kind of jobs, right? So take that information with what it's worth and imagine my personality, my overbearing ability to speak out about things and talk about shit and maybe overdo it at times. Imagine how that all went. That'll probably give you a glimpse into that situation. All right, so I've always burned shit down, always. At 46 years old, I finally have learned that, you know, you as the person who's upset. And I want to be very clear about this because I don't want to downplay abuse. I don't want to downplay racism. I don't want to downplay prejudice or any of that kind of stuff. But the truth is that everybody doesn't think the same. Everybody doesn't believe the same. And at the end of the day, you have no ability to dictate to someone how they should feel about you. Good, bad, or indifferent. At the end of the day, you still have to pay your bills. You still have to take care of your commitments. And if you are constantly looking for environments, I'm about to say some real shit here. I don't know who needs to hear this. If you are constantly looking for environments that affirm you and affirm who you are, if you're always looking for validation, you will never be happy. And that doesn't matter where you're working. I've worked in Arkansas, Mississippi, Texas, Missouri, Pennsylvania, New York, Portland. I've had problems everywhere I've gone. There's no place that is a perfect fit for everybody. If you are able to do your job, you're able to work without anyone impeding what you're doing, stopping what you're doing, keeping you from doing what you're doing. We all know there's a difference between literal harassment and abuse and people just not getting along or people not vibing. Most people get those two things mixed up. They mix up not getting along with people, having a difference of opinion, not vibing with people, with being harassed or abused at work. It's not the same thing. So if you're working in an environment where you just don't vibe with people, that's an easy fix. If you're working with people where you're being abused, you're being mistreated, like legitimately, if you're on some nigger be cool shit, that's an easy fix too. If you work for a corporation, if you work for a company, if you work for a government entity, there's no tolerance for that. So the first thing that I would say to that subscriber who asked that question is, you need to understand what you're dealing with. Are you being abused? Are you being mistreated? Are you being harassed? And when I say harassed, I mean in a legal sense. If that's the case, you have endless routes that you can take to alleviate that situation. The harder thing is, how do you deal with a situation that doesn't rise to the level of harassment? It's just that you don't get along with people. Maybe there's people that don't like you. There's nothing that says your coworkers have to like you. There's nothing that says that your coworkers have to invite you to functions outside of work, that you have to go fishing with them, that you have to be hunting buddies. Like, if that's the issue, or if it's a similar part of that where people are gossiping about you, or they're talking about you, or they don't like the way that you carry yourself or the way that you dress, those are issues that you don't have any control over. I hate to tell you, that aspect of co-workers being negative is not something that you can control. So what do you do? Number one, once you've understood and figured out what you're dealing with, and now we're in the realm of your co-workers are just negative, they don't like you for whatever reason, here's the first thing that you have to do. Get the fuck over it. Get over it. You can quit, but I'm going to tell you, as someone who has lived this experience, I cannot tell you the amount of times that I have quit and switched jobs because people didn't like me. And at 46 years old, I am so far behind the 8 ball of success because I couldn't just stay my ass in one place. If I would have stayed in Arkansas, I would have been extremely successful. Go to the military, go to Missouri. If I would have stayed in Missouri 20 some odd years, I would have been extremely successful. My life falls apart. I moved to Pennsylvania. I kill it in Pennsylvania. And I can't get along with people and I leave Pennsylvania. Right? Every time. It's like climbing a mountain, guys. You climb a mountain and you get all the way up the mountain, and before you know it, you climb down the mountain. Hang on a second, I gotta switch sides here. You climb all the way up to the top of the mountain. You're like, hey, I'm 10 feet away from the apex of this mountain. You know what? I'm gonna crawl all the way down and climb up the next mountain. Like, you're never gonna get there. And that's been my experience, guys. Like, I have done that so many times. So stay in the pocket. If it's a good job, if it's a decent job, if it offers you an opportunity to potentially be successful, stay in the pocket. Don't run. Don't get out of it. Don't allow yourself to quit and leave just because, you don't get along with people. The second thing is, like, to cover yourself, because in today's day and age, I want to also give a little bit of validation to this situation. In today's day and age, you can't just say it doesn't matter, because it does. Enough people whispering about you, enough people making rumors about you, enough people having a problem with you, it can turn into a problem. Because A rumor that goes unchecked can oftentimes become people's reality. So what I suggest, number two, is that if you are not doing anything that is causing or leading to a lot of these problems, whatever is going on, whatever issues you're having with certain people, whatever people are having issues with you, you have to document that. And when you document it, it's simple. Hey, on this day, at this time, this associate did X, Y, and Z, said X, Y, and Z. It was brought to my attention. This person complained about this, complained about that. You just make yourself a little email and you send it to yourself so that you have documentation. If you talk to your supervisor, if you talk to your manager, if you up channel it, make sure that you have that paper trail. Doing that can protect you if anything comes up potentially down the line. The last thing that I'm going to tell you, and probably the most upsetting and frustrating thing that you're going to hear, is that at the end of the day, since you have no control over whether people like you or not, since you have no control over whether people gossip about you or not, and even if you document these things, there's nothing that says that your company, especially in a security situation, is going to keep you at that site. The first hint that there's a problem, the first hint that there's an issue that could potentially cause a problem with the contract, hang on a second, or cause a problem for the security provider, you can find yourself in a situation where they remove you. It's that simple. And there's really no way around it, because at the end of the day, the contract is going to always win. Traffic is crazy. Hang on a second. Try and get around this car. Everybody stand by. Sorry, guys. All right, let me check these comments real quick. See if I got anything. Someone says, oh, it's an easy fix, all right. Hey, I'm the king of checking people. I've been in situations like, I was in a situation not too long ago. I'm not going to get into it. I'm so tempted to tell you to be specific about a situation, but I'm not going to do it. I've promised myself that I will not be that guy. Okay, so I'm not going to do it. But I had someone spreading, I don't even want to say spreading rumors, because like, it's well documented that I do my job very well where I work. However, let's just say there are people, and I think that all of you guys probably understand this if you work in security. People have a very weird misconception of what it is that we're supposed to do. If you work in a retail establishment or a shopping mall or a bank, your frontline staff, the people that work at those locations, they're not management. They're not management. They're not the owners of the company. So their idea or their knowledge of what you're there to do as a security guard, it's off their perception. And really, if you think about it, it's not their job or their place to be involved in that stuff. That's contractual information. What your post orders are, what your ability to get involved in, and to what length, that's all contractual between your company and the company that's hired you. So, the average frontline associate that gets a bug up their ass because you're standing there dressed like a cop, and they get frustrated. They get frustrated at the fact that people are shoplifting, or people are being aggressive, or people are getting angry. There's all kinds of reasons why a frontline store associate would get frustrated, because from their perspective, you're the guy with the gun. And in their mind, you're the guy with the gun. Just go tell the crazy homeless guy whose brain is fried from, years of drugs and sleeping outside, just go tell him to leave. Matter of fact, tell him he's trespassed and he can never come back. And the guy's over there going, like on some fucking 28 days later shit, right? And you're thinking to yourself, give me a second, let me figure out how I'm going to address this. Because you're not going to just go over there and grab the zombie and try and drag him out while he's holding needles in his hand and, you know, pus is coming out of his eyes and shit. But from their perspective, because of what they've been led to believe by what they see on television, cops just come in and grab people, beat them up, and drag them out. And you're not a cop. And your contract might specifically say, do not, under any circumstances, grab someone, beat them up, and drag them out. But you're not there to explain that to them, and it's not their place to know that. So they get upset. Damien doesn't do anything. What good is he? He's standing there with all of that equipment, with his little vest and his little gun and all of his trinkets and doodads. He's got more stuff on him than a Christmas tree, and he won't come over here and beat up the homeless guy. Does any of this sound familiar? Do any of you guys who've worked in this industry deal with this kind of stuff? This is what I deal with. This is what all of us deal with, right? So that can lead to people having an issue with you, having an issue with me. Do you quit because of that? The one thing that I have always kept as a constant, and the reason why I have remained at the location that I have for 4 years, is because I know how dangerous it is. I've been there when the guns have come out. I've been there when people have been stabbed and they walk in holding their intestines. I've been there when people have overdosed. I've been there when people had their brains blown out in the parking lot. I have been at this location and other locations. The guy getting his brains blown out was a different location, but same story. I know how dangerous it is. And I know that if I'm not there, and some of the guys who work for my company are there, in a lot of those situations, it wouldn't have gotten de-escalated. I know that. And I've taken that responsibility to be the person that's there to help those people, even that misunderstand our assignment, aren't appreciative. I am there to protect them. And I'm all protect my company from people that will react way differently than a lot of circumstances. So you have to ask yourself, is where you are important to you? You have to ask yourself, is this a good opportunity for you? And will leaving and going somewhere else be beneficial to you? Or are you rolling down the mountain when potentially you're a lot closer to the top than you could be? And I can't answer that for you. But I can tell you, as someone who's 46, who's got over, 20 something years, 25 years working, and who has let a lot of great opportunities slip because I was going to show people that you weren't going to disrespect me. I won't stand for it. I'll take my ball and I'll go somewhere else. I'll show you. Maybe. So that's my thought. Understand that you can't change people, and you really, I'm of the thought process now in life, guys. I don't want to change people. You want to be a bigot, be a bigot. You want to be prejudiced, be prejudiced. Like, it's America. Freedom of speech, man. Do your thing. Now, you don't have the right to treat me like that in the commission of my job as a supervisor or someone in my line. But in general, I don't care if you like me. I don't care if you have a problem with me. Like, I just don't care. I'm there to do a job. I'm going to do my job. And that's what I would say to the person that asked that question. You cannot change these people. You never will. And no matter what you do, they're never going to change their opinion of you. Whatever it is that you're doing that they're unhappy with, whatever it is that however it is that you carry yourself that they don't appreciate or vibe with, it's not like if you go in tomorrow and you do something different that they're going to change their opinion. They're not. You're not going to be able to please them, bro. So be yourself, do your thing, do your job, make your money, in advance. All right. That's all I got. I know I was rambling a lot, but there's a lot of traffic. All right. Hope that helps. As disconjointed and rambling as it was. Y'all be great.